Assalamu alaikum. We'll just give it a few more minutes, and in the meantime, just make sure that you have a notebook, um, get yourself a drink as well, and inshallah, feel free to write in the chat text box. I think I have disabled everyone's audio now, and just feel free during the session to write in the chat text box. That just gives me some indication that you guys can hear me and that everyone is attentively listening, inshallah. And I think that we will start just in a couple of minutes. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Just one final check if somebody can message and let me know that they can hear me, and then we'll get started, inshallah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I have decided to put together a very important webinar and how to be a high value Muslim parent. There is quite a lot of information I've decided to put on this webinar, and I hope inshallah bi'idhnillah that it's going to help. So please do take my contact details, my Instagram, my website as well. And I have integrated some elements of CBT as well. And I hope that inshallah you can wait till the end and listen to all of it. So just a little bit about me so you have some understanding. So I am the CEO and founder of Al Asl Therapy, and I have 25 years of experience in various fields in science, health, and wellness. It's taken me 8 years to develop Al Asl Therapy, and to be honest, I developed this as a need. It initially started with my own family. My own children suffered a lot. Um, one had eczema, one had poor gut health, and I always understood about the need to have something more holistic. But anyway, alhamdulillah, they ended up healing from a lot of medical ailments. I'm not anti-pharma, but I do believe in the natural route. As you know, some of you probably know Al Asl is looking at the root and origin. So I have created innovative wellness programs. I integrate 12 modalities, and you can take a screenshot or you can take a picture. My credentials are I have a bachelor's in pharmaceutical sciences, PhD in antibiotics, and then I've gone on to study various other modalities. One of the major psychotherapies that I think is very in line with Islam is actually CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And I do work as a health coach, but I'm currently studying with the College of Naturopathic Nutrition in London, which is now based in the UAE. Okay, so I do work with women families, and I work in many different areas such as mental health, self-development, trauma recovery, academic support, etc. You can just take a screenshot if you want to read the whole of it. So in a nutshell, Al Asl Therapy integrates 12 modalities. Why do I integrate 12 modalities? Because I can. Alhamdulillah, through a lot of hard work, through a lot of effort, and many, many years of striving and struggling and, raising a family and studying on the side as well. Alhamdulillah, we now have Al therapy, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, for the global community and the Ummah as well. Okay, so let's get to the actual webinar. So, look, when the information I'm going to present is very succinct, even though there is a lot of information. So, when you wake up every morning, you need to know your why. You have to know your why. Okay, you need that forms a type of motivation, and you might find that I talk around each slide, or some slides are very condensed, but please feel free to make notes. You need to know your why every morning. We have social media and many avenues of gaining information, but we still have so many families that don't have clarity, so many individuals that don't have clarity. But inshallah, this should give you clarity. So, what is a high value Muslim? Basic checklist. Of course, Tawheed. Of course, knowing Allah the Almighty. You have your Salah, you have your Quran, you have your Dua, you have your Adhkar. Okay? Filling the commandments of Allah the Almighty. I'm probably going to repeat myself a lot in this webinar, but I think it's really imperative. Sorry, I'm just looking at the messages. It's imperative here that we go back to the basics. Don't overcomplicate your life. Don't minimize your life. Okay, don't minimize the basics. I work with Muslims on a day-to-day basis, and they're like, well, yeah, we should pray 5 times. Well, that's what we should do, right? But I'm like, why are you minimizing the fact that you pray 5 times? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He guided you to pray 5 times. You have limbs that move and operate. You have hands that can go down in sujood. If you did not feel your palms touching the prayer mat, and the connections that are connected to your brain, there's such a blessing in just being mindfully thinking, Alhamdulillah, thank you, Allah, and may you always keep me as that person who is guided to pray. So minimization, by the way, is a common thinking error in CBT. As I said, I might talk around the slides, so please do make notes. Do not minimize. And yes, and displaying behavior and action of a Muslim, men going to the masjid, I always believe if, you see, I believe in physical strength, but the real strength is when you have men who go to the masjid. Because if they go to the masjid, they go to the mosque or the masjid, everything else starts to fall into place. And don't forget, when you go to the masjid and you're praying there, you are guided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do that. Without His guidance, without His mercy, you cannot do it. So another important point is self-ruqya. I just want to make it very clear here. I'm a basic Muslim, but I do integrate faith. But one thing with the self-ruqya is that the people of knowledge say it's like going to a battle if you don't do your self-ruqya and you don't have the weapon. So you need to do your self-ruqya. You need to do your morning and evening adhkar. You need to teach your children at least the basics. Go to Ustad Tim Humble. He has lectures on the ruqya. Surah Ikhlas, Surah An-Nas, Surah Falak, Ayatul Kursi. Blow on your hands, wipe over your body. Okay, you need to make sure that you're doing that, and if you do it mindfully, it can be a sense of centralizing your central nervous system. And you can take a screenshot of this because there's going to be a few slides with less information and some slides with more. So please feel free. You can share this, and if you are on social media, you can also tag me. Other people will be able to benefit. So striving for excellence, and mothers are the backbone to the family. They need to be present. A high value Muslim, it also means how are you dealing with yourself? I see this every week. It's so sad. It's really sad. This is why I'm doing this webinar. How do you deal with yourself? Are you dealing with yourself correctly? Maybe you have traumas. Something I see often is adults who are raised by parents who I'm not, I never ever say your parents are bad, astaghfirullah, or this, I never go down that route. But sometimes you're raised by parents who didn't have the tools. Sometimes you're raised by parents who decide to stay in marriages and then they vent off at their children all the time. And then that leads to parentification. I mean, this is quite a complex topic, so I'll keep it very simple. But you need to heal from your traumas and you need to look after yourself according to the Quran and Sunnah. Your body's in a manner. How do you deal with others? How you deal with your family? How you eat? Financial competence. This is something very important as Muslims. Finances, especially in today's day and age, securing and trying your best. Flexibility, compassion and mercy, easygoing in areas that aren't against Islam. Men providing for their family, but as you can see, simultaneously also have put mothers are the backbone to the family, so they need to be present, but then you both need to have flexibility. Sometimes it's hard. One income, you need to figure it out. Nutrition and exercise, having goals, emotional intelligence, accountability, self-awareness, emotional maturity, akhlaq and adab. Okay. So to be a high value Muslim parent, you need to work on yourself. After this, you can write an honest reflection. And if husband and wife sit down and you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, imagine the immense reward. And ultimately, we should strive for ihsan, excellence. We are not perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. We need to strive for ihsan. We need to strive for excellence in how we are with ourselves, in how we conduct our jobs, in how we treat our children. Inshallah. Okay. So, teamwork in a Muslim family. Rooted in faith, strengthened by unity. I repeat, rooted in faith, strengthened by unity. In Islam, the family is not just a bond of blood, it is a sacred trust. A Muslim family that works as a team becomes a reflection of mercy, balance, and barakah. Okay? At Al Therapy, we honor the prophetic model of a household where roles are respected but not rigid, where communication is kind and clear, but also we need boundaries, right? So where decisions are made with shura, consultation, not control. Very, very clear. Somebody can just let me know in the chat text box if the volume is fine. That would be great. Jazakallah khairan. So teamwork again, rooted in faith, strengthened by unity. The Prophet ﷺ was the greatest team player, helping in the home, guiding with gentleness, and nurturing those around him with wisdom and love. So I'm just, can you all hear me? Message in the chat text box, please. So he was helping in the home, guiding with gentleness, nurturing those around him with wisdom and love. When Muslim families operate as teams, they raise leaders rooted in deen, resilient in the dunya as well. Okay, so let your home be a place of sakina, strength, and shared purpose. Again, I want to mention rooted in faith and strengthened by unity. Okay. So if you're attending today, raising high value Muslim children must be a goal. Great. So goals are important. You are on the right track. Honestly, I have to repeat every single other day, every single week. I have clients, they might be high up in the corporate world, they might be stay-at-home mom. There's a lot of insecurities, but I hope after this session today, you have like a clear direction. If you have goals, that is great. We need more Muslim families with goals. Be visionaries. Okay? And I'll tell you something, if you try to live your life with a high level of ihsan, excellence, for example, when you eat, sit down, Bismillah, and you are mindful of what you're eating and you are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what you have. When you're guided to your prayer, you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you guided me. Let me always be in your favor. Mindfulness. Okay. So goals require time and effort. Parenting requires teamwork. Our ummah would be so much better, in a better state, if the parents could get it together. Stop the blame. Figure it out. Okay? Give me 20 PhDs. I'm a parent myself. Give me 20 PhDs. It's easier than being a parent. So it's not easy. Okay, after today's session, how can we turn our goal into aspiring to be a high value Muslim parents and into ibadah? Okay. One of the largest cognitive shifts, and it's underlooked, because I try to bridge the gap between real life and faith. And it's innamal a'malu binniyat. Actions are judged by the intentions. You can turn your whole day into ibadah. And the reason why I'm talking to you as parents is because if you do this, you will then have the confidence and competence. The confidence and competence to inculcate that into your children and their tarbiyah. If you don't practice it yourself, you see, when I even go to corporate companies, I say experience builds competence. It's no different. It's a profound reminder that the value and merit of our actions depend largely on the intentions behind them. And if, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, you inculcate that into your children and your own life, your mental health will be much better. You're answering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like you're going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this route and on this path. So what does intention solidify? Mindfulness. Mindfulness is a prescription, by the way. I really believe it's a prescription. It's medicine that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. So you see, you win in deen and dunya. You intend to eat healthy food for the sake of Allah. You intend to tidy your bed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You intend to, you see, this is what we can teach our children, but if you're not doing it yourself, you're not going to see the benefit. And you should do it for yourself first. Intention increases mindfulness. Mindfulness increases dopamine. Dopamine is a natural neurotransmitter that is released into your body and it makes you feel good. Intention gives you a sense of accomplishment. Accountability, it gives you accountability when you have a good intention. So if you don't look at your actions and change your actions, there's not going to be any change. Mindfulness, it decreases anxiety and depression. It motivates you. Mindfulness decreases intrusive thoughts because your brain is primed to focus and then refocus. So when you're focused on the here and now, it decreases that chance of, for example, anxious thoughts. Thoughts about the future is related to anxiety. And thoughts about the past are related to depression and depressive thoughts. So mindfulness is a very, very good faith-based tool. So cognitive shifts and brain shifts. Focus on being a high-level Muslim, not low-level. We should know our why. So I will then go back to the original slide. You need to know your why. So you have at least 20 points that you can focus on. Why go on social media? Why? I even have doctors who come on and I banned for programs, and I banned them from researching because they're looking for something, but they're not going back to the basics. Even eating tayyib food, clean food, 80% of the time. So create a solid foundation for your brain, body, and soul. This is a solid foundation for parenting and inculcating this into children and their tarbiyah. I'm talking about the intention. We waste a lot of time looking for answers when we neglect the basics. Go back to the basics. Okay. So one important aspect, I've talked a lot about the practical aspects. Okay. But one very important thing that you need to do. So I've talked about, for example, intention. I've talked about the checklist. I've talked about um, the mindfulness. But you need to make dua. You have to be in a every day make dua. Supplication is a powerful tool for seeking guidance, blessings, and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It plays a significant role in parenting. Parents are encouraged to make dua for their children, asking Allah to grant them health, wisdom, righteousness, and success in both this life and the hereafter. And by the way, why shouldn't we strive for success in this life and the hereafter? Why not? Similarly, children are taught to make dua for their parents, seeking forgiveness, mercy, and blessings for them. It's a heartfelt connection between us and Allah the Almighty, a way to express gratitude, seek guidance, and find solace in challenging times. In parenting, it can be transformative as it allows parents to entrust their children's well-being to Allah the Almighty. So, again, I'm going to be repeating some stuff because I want it to be very clear. So again, obviously, high value Muslim parent. I mean, it's the basics, but just remember, when you pray 5 times, you are guided to that. Not everybody is guided to pray. And of course, the Quran, and you have to know Allah the Almighty. You have to get to know Him. Ustad Tim Humble, there's some very good lectures on knowing Allah. Okay. For example, even one lecture about dua, it was mentioned in that lecture that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't like it when we don't make dua to Him. He can even see it as arrogance. So we need to know Allah more. Also, sometimes when I have clients, they feel, oh, Allah doesn't love me. Allah's gonna, punish me when they're making like small mistakes, but they're trying. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like that because who are we to form judgment? Are we limiting His mercy? So this is how you need to start thinking, but we can't get to that way of thinking unless we don't seek knowledge. Ruqya is a big thing. You can keep it very simple. Again, Ustad Tim Humble's lectures. And the basic is Surah Ikhlas, Surah An-Nas, Surah Falak, Ayatul Kursi, blow in your hand, wipe over your body. And do it purposefully. And it really calms the central nervous system. And you should also teach your children. Prioritize emotional connection. Raise with purpose and vision. Please, please, please. I'm hoping that there's some fathers on here as well. Both of you, both parents, be visionaries. And if you have a vision for Deen and Dunya, you might be tired every single day because you're striving, you know, but it's very important to be visionaries. You need to be visionaries for yourself individually, then as a couple, and then as parents, and for your children. So be visionaries, raise with purpose and vision. Make dua. Again, I've mentioned dua. There's many times I will mention certain things. Give sadaqah in your names. Give sadaqah in your children's name, regularly given in charity. Discipline with compassion, not shame. Discipline with compassion, not shame. Very important point number 6. Please lead by example. Of course, some days you're going to lose your temper. Being a parent, being a high value Muslim parent, isn't that you're never going to raise your voice. But we have to get some of the fundamentals right. And I'm a huge advocate for children and teenagers because they need us more now than ever, more now than ever. So please lead by example. Keep the home a safe space, not a battlefield. Don't compare each child. Each child has their own fitra. You will actually ruin your children when you start comparing them. Some children have more strength. Some children are more capable. Some children have more insight. Some children have their own capability. Some children are born with like tendency to have deficiencies. So they're going to be a lot weaker. So don't compare your children. Help them build resilience. Help them build tawakkul. Continually grow yourself. Invest in your growth, your own growth, both parents. So a checklist of what both teen, a checklist of what both young children need and teens. So again, it's quite content heavy, but I can't deliver this webinar without giving details. I think I'm not going to do, it's not the right thing to do. So I was well aware that it is going to be content heavy, and I want you all to use it as a kind of a tool, the whole webinar, inshallah, bismillah. So, of course, parents have to be students of knowledge. We have to know Allah. But there's something about gaining knowledge. And I know there's some people who are going to be like experts and they'll go on to, you know, really be great students. And then there's other people. Uh, so I think it's important to learn and reflect and implement. I've worked with some very religious people as well, and that's not belittling, like religious is in really active in memorization, really, but sometimes they're lacking some things, not all of them, but some of them. So it's very important to learn and implement. So parents who are healing from their traumas, um, some parents are healing from their traumas. You can't, you have to heal from your traumas. You have to somewhat understand and release and deconstruct and learn how to move on for your traumas. So spouses need to work on a loving relationship. Parents who are self-aware and self-regulate. This is very important for raising teens. You need to develop also emotional intelligence. And I'll tell you why this is all important, because every single parent who's attended today, they will want their child to be somebody who's self-aware, somebody who self-regulates, somebody who is developing their emotional intelligence. Because emotional intelligence, when you have a teen, imagine you have a teenager and they are dealing with people in a very like, they're not a reactive teenager, they understand people. I mean, I think every parent, you can write, can you type in the chat text box, please, that yes, I want that type of teen, I want that type of son or daughter where they have a high level of EQ. So just put that in the chat text box, please. So I know that I have you guys with me. And so that's something that you need to work on. So again, 5 daily prayers. I mentioned men going to the masjid is such a beautiful thing, because this is what a real rajul is, a real man when he's going to the masjid. Of course, if he's working, he's restricted, that's different. But men and young boys attending the masjid is such a beautiful thing to grow up on. Dua, sadaqah, adhkar, and Fortress of the Muslim is the book for inshallah the du'as. Du'as are a game changer. There's one du'a, of course, because there's only so much I can present today, but one of my favorite du'as for poor mental health is I tell my clients is Allahumma rahmatka arju fala takilni li nafsi tarfat ayn wa aslih li sha'ni kullahu la ilaha illa ant. Oh Allah, don't leave me to myself even for a blinking of an eye. Correct all of my affairs for me. This is in Fortress of the Muslim, and I always say, Subhanallah, look at this. We're asking Allah, don't leave us to ourselves, because we self-destruct. We can self-destruct. We don't have that sometimes insight in how we deal with ourselves. So yes, fulfilling the commandments of Allah the Almighty, understanding it, it's a journey. Don't be pushy with each other. I've actually I'm doing a pre-marriage course now, based on a lot of because there's a need, and one of the things is preparing people to actually uh, pre-marriage and then to marriage. So the transition is going to be a lot easier for a lot of couples, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, because sometimes when people get married, they enforce things, and yes, there should be some level of saying, we need to do this, we need to do that, especially with the hijab or the, going to the masjid, etc. But you have to understand that some things you might not have known about each other before. Maybe you didn't do the correct investigation, but you need to still be reasonable with each other. You can't be fighting and persecuting and oppressing. Be high level Muslims, your conduct, your akhlaq, how you deal with yourself. And I've noticed that most people who know the deen, but they don't deal with their spouse correctly, is because they're not dealing with themselves correctly, or maybe they have a very unhealthy relationship with their parent and they don't know how to grow. So other things that you need to be working on is and the children, nutrition and exercise, stay of food, enroll your kids into sports, please. Even your girls, don't limit if there's nothing for girls out there, especially in the UK, find something where it's women only, women led, in a halal environment. I was teaching netball in Al Barsha for 7 years, 16 different nationalities, but it was in halal environment, women only, a signpost on the door. Get your children enrolled into sports, and they will learn a lot through sports. You children and teens, well, more so teens, they need smart goals. Building tawakkul from a young age is very important. Understanding common CBT errors in parenting. So I haven't gone into detail, but I will try if time permits. Okay. Teamwork between parents is very important. And parents choosing function over dysfunction. So some parents are trapped in the dysfunction trap, where they are just generally dysfunctional. Okay. Maybe they grew up in a dysfunctional home, and so they only know how to thrive with dysfunction. Okay. And akhlaq, adab, intention, sincerity, and action. Okay. So inculcate religion in a beautiful way with age-appropriate discipline. Young children will see you pray from a young age, then build on their prayer from the age of 7. Do star charts for kids and reward them. There's a lot of parenting coaches out there who don't reward your children for the Quran, or don't do star charts for this, for that. I'm totally against. I think you should reward your children. I'll tell you why. Because our children need to see tangible results, and how we operate in this dunya is based on a reward and merit system. Are we correct in our intention? Every single letter of the Quran we are rewarded. So it's nice for the children, obviously, to see something tangible like a star chart, and saying, okay, after you've memorized one juz, we'll do like a juz party or something. So I do believe in rewarding your children, very much so. So it takes a village to raise a child. Families need support in a functional way. Learn the rights of children before they are born. Okay, for teens, ensure the praise is established. So what do you think? What do you think you and your spouse need to work on? And that's something you can do after this. Something you can do after this session, inshallah. Okay, so early years in the home environment. Okay, very important points. Please, 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 everybody watch The Muslim Family Home by Satim Humble. He has many, 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 it's on YouTube. He has many videos that are very beneficial. So for the early years, it's very, very simple, by the way. It's very simple. Don't overcomplicate it. You need sound and correct knowledge of your religion, not mixed with unhelpful culture. By the way, of the unhelpful culture, there's many arguments over unhelpful cultural practices, and that needs to be kind of removed somewhat. Practicing your deen in the true sense, of course, we are all at different stages. Both parents need to deal with their traumas and seek the correct intervention. And I'll tell you why I put this in the early years is because many parents think, oh, it's a baby. Oh, they only 1 year old. What do they know? Believe me, it will impact them. And some children grow up with PTSD, and they do remember from 3 to 4 years old as well. So please, both parents, deal with your traumas, seek the correct intervention. Please do not go for energy healers. Please do not go for hypnotherapy. Please do not go for NLP. You need to go for the correct modalities aligned with the Quran and Sunnah. Okay? Do not bring your baggage into parenting. I do have to mention here a little bit about the in-law relationships as well, because sometimes I've seen women stay in a marriage for the sake of their kids, and then that mother overburdens the son or the daughter all their life with all their problems. And then they think, oh, I sacrificed staying with my husband for the sake of you guys. This is wrong. This is really wrong. Maybe some people don't agree, but I think it's really wrong. I've seen the devastating impact on my online coaching clinic. So you need to work through the problems. And sometimes some women have seen their moms do that, and then they grow up. I've been in situations where I've had clients where the spouse abuses the wife, and even wives a wife can abuse the husband because of this instability in their childhood and how they were raised in the tarbiyah. And this is a very long, deep, complex subject, because I take my client through a whole release, deconstruct process. We don't do parent blaming. We just look at what was functional, what was not functional. But I just wanted to highlight that at this point. So work on yourself, self-awareness, self-regulation, get spiritually strong and healthy, but do not berate each other. Your home must be a safe hub for you and your children. Children need to see parents who work as a team. Raise them with love, lead them with deen, play with them. You need to be fit enough. You need to be strong enough, mother and father. You cannot raise your children very weak. And if you have multiple health problems, seek intervention. You can contact me. I'm a health coach. I work on multiple issues, multiple problems. And nutrition and exercise are very important. And reward your children and have healthy boundaries. It's very simple, very, very simple for raising younger children. Um, and so don't sit on the problem and think sabr, patience. Of course, sabr and patience is good. You cannot be reactionary. You cannot fight over everything, but try to problem solve where you can. Both parents need to figure out what the issue is. Of course, being patient and dealing with each other with hikmah, with wisdom, is important. Be flexible. I see a lot of rigidity. If it's within the boundaries of Islam, then why not be flexible? Let go of your ego. Think, is this a functional way or a dysfunctional? And it's men and women, they're both guilty of control, of abuse, of even the silent treatment. The silent treatment, I see a lot in families. It's a very, if your husband, the silent treatment is not healthy at all. You need to work through your problems. So through my work, there are men and women who have grown up in dysfunctional families and then go on to abuse their spouse. Seek the right intervention before marriage. Many problems you might see with your child are developmental signals. Not, this is for early years, not problems, but are a natural part of growth. Emotionally immature parents will also project onto their kids, especially when they're small. I've seen a lot of parents had that the parents are so strict when the children are young, and then now when the teenager has a voice, they kind of become a bit more lenient. So please, if you have young children, be wary of that. Early years can be full of joy, but equally confusing and challenging for both parent and child. For example, your child might have sleep disturbances or speech delays. The mother needs more time with that child, but unfortunately, sometimes in many families, so much pressure, especially if you live with the dual family system. You're living with other family members. How can she look after herself, the woman, and how can she then help the child? Because I really believe children who are on the spectrum with ADHD or various other concerns that parents have, I do believe that a natural holistic approach with a lot of time and attention, it can help the child. So that needs support from the spouse. Okay. And the other thing I've noticed is the father or has picked up OCD from his mother, or vice versa. The mother has picked up OCD. Usually it's from the mother. And then they fail to have insight into helping their child. So they come into the marriage with these behaviors, and they feel like this is the safe way to manage. And it's a very complex situation when you have OCD and waswas. So and another example of problems is both parents constantly arguing about petty matters. So in early years, it's very simple. Your religion, your health, your fitness, and this is for parenting younger kids. Financial security, healthy boundary between spouses, and obviously for the children, it's inculcating the deen, them seeing you as examples, the exercise, nutrition, etc. Right. This is something very interesting and it's very close to my heart. Okay. Now, a, did you know that a lack of exercise and nutrition in young children, especially boys, can lead to struggle? They can lead to struggles with their writing. And I've come across many schools complaining about children being behind. Okay. Exercise improves writing skills and finger dexterity. Forget about the time that you were raised in. I'm telling you as parents, focus on the here and now. Okay. Physical exercise builds core strength, posture, fine motor skill, enhances hand-eye coordination, regulates emotion and focus. And the vestibular system, which is actually the inner ear, I don't think many of you will know that the inner ear plays a crucial part actually also in focusing and with their writing. And it's so sad when I hear or work with families, and my son was one of them, that he was labeled slow, he was labeled so many things. And subhanallah, like he's done his even GCSEs, some of his GCSEs early, but the school system had even failed my son. That's why I do the work that I do, and the medical system. So some boys need a lot more exercise than the average younger toddler child, and it plays a huge role in writing. So exercise is one of the best ways to support the vestibular system, the inner ear. So this requires parents to be attentive. You can't be attentive if you're not self-aware and you're not self-regulating. Okay, try your best and build tawakkul. Tawakkul is a power cognitive tool. It's like a brain tool, but obviously you're feeding your soul. You you have to use these concepts. Tawakkul, building a reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trying your best. Tadabbar, where you reflect on the verses of the Quran, you reflect on your religion, you reflect, very important. So for the teens, it gets more complicated, gets a lot more complicated. So ensure obviously the prayer is established. I always try to mention the prayer, which we know it's a standard, but it's very important to keep mentioning that we need to help. And of course, I mentioned the prayer in the early years. So of course, the Quran, the akhlaq, and the adab. Nurture emotional maturity through self-awareness and self-regulation. Your teenagers, I cannot stress this enough, please be patient with your teens. When they become teens and you've spent so much time raising them from young, forget about when we were young. If you're in your 40s, your 50s, forget about that. We were raised differently. We were different. Nowadays, our teens need us, and between the age of 13 and 15, we lose our teenagers if we don't take heed. Be patient with your teenagers, set them smart goals, and keep following up. Don't just keep it. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be on their head, but you have to recognize the incremental improvement. This is not written on the slide. I always talk around the slide. This, you need to work on incremental. Has my teen improved somewhat in the last 2, 3 months? And you can't gauge that if you're not doing that for yourself. Okay. So set them smart goals. I highly advise mentors. If your children have tutors, it'd be really good if you had a tutor who also mentors them as well. Be patient with them, give them solutions. If you haven't grown yourself as a parent, this will be very difficult. You will lack insight and you will lack competence. And by the way, even if you pray and read Quran and you make dua, experience builds competence. You still need to experience life. You need to experience different situations. You need to work on different situations. You need to, you part of being a high value Muslim is not just praying. Of course, that's a fundamental, but you need to learn how to develop EQ, so self-awareness, self-regulation. Okay. Nutrition impacts physical and mental health, even more so due to the hormonal changes. So now we're talking about the hormonal changes. I have done a teen girl course, and there's been a girl as young as 9 who, in the girls' course, realized, oh my goodness, I now know why I used to feel and have these thoughts. Because 2 years prior to the menses starting, I have an influx of girls who are about to reach puberty, but it starts 2 years before these days. 2 years before they start the actual menses, they end up having a lot of intrusive thoughts. So you need to be aware. With boys, you will find it's almost like sometimes having a toddler, but you can't tell them off in the same way. So when they raise their voice, don't automatically have an ego and think, oh my gosh, my son raised his voice. Be patient and advise. And so when you calm down, come back to me. Give them rules. Say, okay, this is your first warning. This is your second one. Third time, you take the screens away. Okay, don't project onto your teens and expect perfection. Teens' prefrontal cortex is still developing. I remember somebody told me, don't use the word teens in the Sahaba's time. There was people leading the army at 16, but we're not living in those times. Of course, I'm all with the Quran and Sunnah, but uh, you, you, we're living in completely different times. Even from when I was raised, we were not raised like caged chickens. We were out, we were walking at the age of 7 to, that was in the UK. I was walking to school at the age of 7, 6, and it was safe. But our children nowadays are raised in like little chicken coops. So yeah, so we have to, in this context, we have to understand that the prefrontal cortex is still developing. Most parents lose control with their teen around 13, 15 years old. So you need to be very careful and very conscious. This is the time they need you the most. They really do. Your patience and your time, and just understand, give it 3, 4 years, it will get, inshallah, bi'ithnillah, better. Emotional outbursts need help from you. If they are angry, let them calm down. Anger with anger is never good. Develop red and green areas, negotiables and non-negotiables. Can you write in the chat text box that the chat text box if you use red and green areas, and if you use a reward system, and if you use like warnings, because these are all tools that you can use with the younger years and the older years. Yeah, so with warnings, it should be 1 warning, 2 warning, third, then it's the consequence. And by giving them a consequence, by giving them 1 warning, 2 warnings, it gives their brain to process that, okay. And yeah, good. Okay, so quite a few of you. Okay. Warnings, I do believe warnings are good. I think, life is full of rules and regulations. So teens and nuffs. Nuffs, your desires, impulses, and emotions is part of being a human being, but it needs training. So this is something you need to train your children on. Alhamdulillah, we have tools. You need to inculcate this. Now, if you are a parent who has very bad habits, smoking, vaping, doing other things, even some parents are gaming excessively, it's going to be very hard. Your teens will not say much, but they will see you as role models. So you need to take heed. At Al Asl Therapy, we teach that knowing your nafs isn't about guilt, it's about growth. And I'm going to come to the guilt part because knowing we have been given rules and regulations by Allah the Almighty, and this is a blessing, you begin to lead yourself, not be led by moods or impulses. So master your nafs and you unlock your strength. This is what you need to tell your teens. And I will tell you multiple times. If you need to think, if you want your teen to understand this, repeat that 500 times. Then you'll have something else I tell you, you repeat that 500 times. Some people think I've told them giving into certain nafs leads to sin. So that's the point of guilt I want to say. That if you give into it, it will lead to sin. In most cases anyway. Abstaining from it can lead to reward. And depending on what the situation is. So, dear parents, if you think your children are now teens and should be responsible and accountable and mature, then you are disillusioned. We are building accountability. We are building responsibility. We are building maturity. But as soon as they hit 13, 14, 15, you have to understand that's the transition stage. You have to be patient. Nobody taught me this, and now I'm teaching you guys this, that I thought you need all your energy for these active young children. Actually, you need so much more energy in the teenagers. Okay, so you will need to give them even more energy and time. They need a focus and goals, but with you present in a nurturing way. Action from you and dua. So I'm going to um it's whenever it's Maghrib time in the UK, just let me know. And then for those, you can leave for Maghrib and I will then take some questions and answer them. And then when you've returned back from Maghrib, we will continue with the presentation. So just let me know if you've tuned in from the UK, then we will stop and I will take some questions. And then when you're back, just let me know, inshallah. Okay, so it's about 10 minutes. All right. So repetition. For children and teens, you may need to repeat yourself 500 times. People say, where do you get that number from? I've just got it from experience. So 500 times, but it's just to give you an idea that you need to repeat yourself and don't tire. It's going to be tiresome and you will get tired, but you have, like we've talked about intention, we've talked about dua, we've talked about mindfulness, we've talked about um, building yourselves with EQ, with self-awareness, with self-regulation. So hopefully, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, you'll be able to have the capacity. So inculcate morals and principles into your children. Of course, give them boundaries and discipline too. Okay. So parents want successful children, but fail to take early intervention. So they blame their teens and fail to understand they didn't create a safe hub in the early years. So you're going to have to be even more patient whilst and there's nothing wrong with, we expect our children to say sorry. What about parents saying sorry to children? And in some cases, some parents will not be able to say sorry because of the complexities of what they've gone through. So this is quite a complex topic. Some children have given this children access to social media in an inappropriate way. When their teen needs support, they minimize their struggle. Minimization is not good. Don't minimize their struggle, and listen to them. And sometimes you need to be a bit firm, like, look, we've gone through this several times. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And sometimes you need to seek external intervention. I do want to say at this point, early intervention is always better. And yes, I do have cell therapy. And one of the reasons why I do push my business now is because I have people who have come to me that have seen Muslims and non-Muslims, but they've delved into dangerous practices, healing practices, and had out-of-body experiences. So absolutely, yes, I do. You know, that's one of the main reasons this year why I do put my cell therapy out there, because I stick to evidence-based practices and modalities. So, simple support can go a long way. Don't minimize your teen struggle. Don't have a black and white approach. Black and white thinking is a common thinking error in cognitive behavioral therapy. And by the way, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he talked about part of the cure is habit. And he also talked about when you have a plan, when you have a thought, it becomes a plan. A plan becomes an idea and it becomes your action, which is behavior. And that's cognitive behavioral therapy in a nutshell. Thoughts turn into behavior. So this CBT work is not far from inshallah bi'idhnillah al-deen. So don't have a black and white approach to parenting. Don't have low level responses. That's why growth and EQ are important. EQ is emotional intelligence, are important for parents. Okay. Problems in the parents' marriage, but they take lack of accountability. You want successful children, but you're not taking accountability as parents. Um, and there's no boundary setting in the marriage either. Sometimes some women, they just do sabr, 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 thinking, if I do sabr, but sometimes you disable your marriage. Maybe if you pushed your husband a little bit or supported him or encouraged him, and vice versa, men do that to their wives, and some women are traumatized by their childhood and they then bully their husbands. So you need to have boundary setting, and it's not just sabr. Sabr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say just do sabr all the time. There are solutions. And the reason why I'm pushing for this is because I've seen the side where people a spouse has been mute, they've not said anything, and then I deal with the teenagers, and the teenagers say, you know what, I can't wait to leave home. I can't wait to go from this environment. So don't belittle one another, or one parent belittles the other. And sometimes parents haven't nurtured the child with and nurtured them, and also, of course, with positivity and with boundaries. Inshallah, I will be taking question and answers very shortly. So have your questions ready. And then those who need to go pray Maghrib, inshallah, they can also return. So one point I wanted to bring to your attention, and if you, when you do leave for the Maghrib prayer, please do inform me, and then I will go to Q&A. One point I wanted to bring to your attention: what happens to a child raised in a toxic household? The child learns to be invisible. They don't process life well. They tolerate toxic relationships. Their mind keeps expecting something to go wrong. Now, I don't want teenagers to think you have a green light to go do all of this and be all of this. No, but it's just highlighting why parents need to get it right, why parents need to be a high level Muslim. Teenagers go on to isolate themselves, and there are probably some very self-entitled teenagers. So I hope you're not taking this all in a very black and white sense. It has to be investigated. If you have trouble in the family or things are getting out before they get out of hand, you can always contact me as well, inshallah. Some children who are raised in toxic household, they seek comfort in the wrong people. They can't wait to leave home. They can't wait to escape. They have poor resilience. Of course, you may still get the above if you are parents who have proactively tried. In this case, keep trying, make dua, and build on your tawakkul. Okay? So, some final advice for me: parenting in Islam is a sacred responsibility, emphasizing dedication and reliance on Allah the Almighty. Parents are tasked with nurturing their children's physical, emotional, and spiritual well being, guiding them to live with integrity, faith, and a strong moral compass. Islam highlights the importance of trying one's best while seeking Allah's guidance through dua and adhering to the teachings of the Quran and Hadith, Quran and Sunnah. Tawakkul, or trusting in Allah, is central to Islamic parenting. Parents are encouraged to balance proactive efforts such as education and creating a nurturing environment with faith in Allah's plan. This reliance brings peace and reassurance, helping parents navigate challenges with confidence, knowing the ultimate outcome rests with Allah the Almighty. Incorporating tawakkul teaches children resilience and reliance on Allah by modeling trust in Allah and emphasizing the value of sincere effort. Parents equip their children with the spiritual tools to face life challenges. Parenting in Islam is ultimately a journey of striving, trusting, and growing in faith together. There's a lot more I could have added to the webinar, but I mean the list could go on. So inshallah, I hope you found this beneficial, and if you have questions, please do go ahead and write them in the chat text box, and I'm happy to answer them. So somebody has written here, why do we have to repeat so much now than when we were young? More distraction screens. I just think it's not only adults, but also there's adults and there's also children. Um, so I just believe that it's just the nature of the dunya. Like it could be screens, it could be multiple reasons, but we are in kind of a situation where we do need to repeat a lot, and we need a lot of energy. I remember understanding things very clearly when I was very young, but I think the sooner we come out of that, but we will like this and we will like that, the easier it's going to be for you to try to make the necessary changes yourselves, inshallah. Any further questions? Okay, so you have 5-year-old twins and 2-year-old son. Recently, one of my twins become very aggressive and hits her brother a lot of times. Okay, so she's snatching stuff, not allowing. Okay, so when it comes to your children, you have 3 children under the age of 10, and that can be very yeah. So it's Maghrib now. Not sorry. I'll come back to the question. I will let you know if there's going to be a recording available. I've seen a few typers in my um, webinar, so I'm not sure this time I'll be recording it, but I will inform you. So I'm just answering the questions now, so please write your questions. So for children under the age of 6, 7, it's very important that you start establishing rules. So if she hits and smacks, you have to start the warning process. Like, this is not acceptable, and you have one warning. If she, of course, if she's hitting in a very violent and aggressive way, you have to kind of like hold her hand and say, stop, this is not acceptable, and go on her level. Okay. um I do believe that you can have like an area where you say, and remove her from the room where the toys are, and you can say, after the when it gets to the third warning, you can say, right, you need to sit here and make sure she's in a safe space, and say, this is like the naughty corner, or this is where, this is the reflecting corner, to reflect on what you have done. And you will have to repeat this multiple times. Another thing is, when you've given her 3 warnings, you take away her favorite toy. Of course, if he's very young, um, and usually girls around the age of 5, they understand a lot more. So that's in terms of discipline. If your twin girls, they are speaking well and they start to understand well, you can nurture and inculcate into her that, this is not okay. Boys are very different to girls at this stage. I mean, even when they're teens, they're very, very, very different. Girls understand a lot more generally, and boys, they're very they just kind of, they don't process things as quickly as toddler girls, and kind of um KG1, KG2. Okay. So you need to be persistent and consistent in having some discipline techniques. And also what you can do is you can start a reward system, because then they'll be like, oh, look, one of the twins is getting the stars. And then you can explain that, look, if you stop hitting your brother, if you do this, if you help, it can be done in a very nice way, not in a competitive way, or not in a way where they feel, oh, feel inferior to the other child. Obviously, fairness in raising children is so important, but so difficult sometimes. So I hope that's briefly answered your question. So why do teens love to be in their room and the toilets for hours? Well, first and foremost, I find that a lot of teens are picked on when they're at the dinner table or when they're amongst family. And uh, I, in terms of the toilet, it's probably the one time where they get the peace. But I've come across teens where they've had very bad experiences in the bathroom. And of course, because of the work, I'm delivering this today because of the work that I do. And it's very important to ensure that you put on a timer for your teen and say, this is the time that you need to come out. Make sure they're not taking their phone. They've had scary experiences, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah as well. So you need to make sure that you're equipping your children. Please, 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 as parents, equip yourselves with your du'as, with your adhkar, with your bare minimum your self ruqya, and teach your children as well the times. And you need to sit as a family. You need to be active, like do stuff on the weekend. We didn't need that when we were younger. We didn't need our parents to take us hiking or take us on trips when we were younger. We were happy with the simplest things. But you know what? As I've said before, don't look into the past. Don't think, oh, we didn't do this. Why do they need you? They need you. They need. Then you need to be active and proactive on the weekends. And the fathers have to take their sons under their wing. If you have a healing to do, please get the healing done. But sons, they really need fathers under their wing, inshallah. And yeah, so we've got some more questions here. What other things do you think a person who's not married yet should be focused on to parent well and avoid such mistakes? So, for the lady who's written that, I have a very important pre-marriage course that I have put together because I have seen so many, and then people have asked for marital courses, but for now, it's a 5-week course. You don't have to invest that much time. You come on a Saturday. Just message me and I'll give you the details for the pre-marriage course if anybody wants to join that because it is imperative. So that course will actually be covering the issues related to what do you need to prepare. So somebody else has said my daughter keeps asking she wants a cat and she gets angry, she misbehaves, she keeps whining. So you have allergies. So if your daughter is 12 and she really wants a cat, find 5 choices. Say, look, I can't get that because we have, but me and your father, we're going to give you 5 choices of something, an alternative. With teenagers, you need to give choices. It's like you need to be open to negotiation. Don't always expect them to have a high level of empathy. So say, okay, I've got 5 choices, or I've got 3 choices, pick from these 3. Okay. What advice can you give with regards to different stages of giving a teen the first? Well, giving the teen the first mobile phone, first and foremost, you need to have a contract. Write a written contract. You have this phone. It's only for when, for example, you're in the taxi or you're going to your location. You cannot be scrolling. You cannot have your phone at night. You cannot be on your phone by using your phone in your bedroom. You can use it to, for example, if they have a tutor, you make a group. So best thing when you introduce the phone is you have a contract. They have to sign, you have to sign. Hope that answers it, inshallah. Because once they get addicted, it's going to be, and no downloading of apps, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. If they're at a stage where they're somewhat responsible and say you can use social media for business, but you need to be very careful. For some reason, these apps, they know when, I don't know, that they're young and they'll start putting stuff on the search page, which is very inappropriate. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help our children. I mean, okay. So there's another question. At what age do you start exercise physical activity for your child? Is 6 years old too young? Absolutely not. You start now. You start from when they're crawling. You take them out. You take them. You physical activity. I don't mean like I mean, like taking them to the park and letting them run. I mean, taking them, if you want to start them with a sport like football in the garden. I remember when my children were very young because I played netball and I knew I knew the importance of sports from a young age. I don't have girls, but I have boys, and I used to take them into the garden and play basketball with them. And it was a way of passing time. Okay, let's shoot. Let's see who can get the most baskets in. And we turned, and as we got older, we turned it into like competition. So there's being active with your children in the garden, getting fresh air is very, very important. And it could mean just running up and down the garden. It could mean it doesn't need to have to be something per se, but you can enroll them into sport even at the age of 6. But be careful with sports because a lot of coaches try to pigeonhole or put your children into a box and limit their growth. Um, Son is 3 and 3 year months. He starts touching your belly with his shirt and tries to touch his belly with mine. Is this something normal? Um, I wouldn't think too much of that. Just ask him why he's doing it, or and just say it's um. I wouldn't think too much of that. You can just ask him why he's doing it, and then you can start telling him what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, inshallah. Um, ill health hindered you with forging ahead with parenting goals. Right. If you're not feeling well, even if you cannot leave the bed and be really active, please do not worry. If you need to sleep 3, 4 hours in the day for a nap because you're really sick, don't worry. Create a space in your bedroom where your children come to you. You sit, you have like smoothie bowls together. You say, come on, now it's time, come and sit with mummy. You create like a reflection corner for them. You say, come on. So it's about if you're sick, qadar Allah, you're sick. First and foremost, obviously, of course, you need to look after yourself. You need to take care of yourself. You need to make sure that you're dealing with your illness in the correct way, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. And then you shouldn't feel guilty because you can still nurture your children even if you're a sick parent, because society and culture always think, oh no, women need to do this or men need to do this. If there's a man out, husband, a father out there sick, or there's a mother out there sick, there's many ways you can still connect with your children, and even creating little safe hubs in the room. Even you can exercise at home, even you can train at home, even you can rest at home. And bring your children into your room, have a nice corner, say this is the well-being and recovery room. When you come to mommy, she's lying down, she's just recovering, but it's the well-being room for you. So you can turn illness not into something like where you feel, oh my goodness, like I feel so terrible, I'm not doing what I can for my children. And you can get Connect Four. Of course, I've emphasized a lot in the Quran and the prayer and the sadaqah and the dua. Well, even get something like Connect Four. Have a Connect Four tournament and say, come on, let's, or like let's get some snacks, let's play Connect Four, for example. So please, 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 if you feel like you had parenting goals, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees your struggle. As long as you are proactively working on yourself, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees your struggle, and there's many ways that you can adapt, inshallah bi'idhnillah, to be a really great parent. Somebody said trauma caught your attention. Do you do programs to deal with trauma and to heal in the right direction? Yes, I work individually with trauma. Inshallah bi'idhnillah, you can contact me. What advice can you give with regards to the different stages of a teen with their first mobile? My biggest advice is you need a contract. You need a contract before you give them the phone. Um, so some more questions. Um, if you're, you see, somebody's written about their daughter and her temperament. You know, I have seen every single teenager I have worked with in the last 6 months, they've all had deficiencies. Every single teenager has had a deficiency. So the first thing, if you're worried about your daughter's temperament, I want to know if she has a deficiency. Because low vitamin D can cause cognitive decline, poor mental health. If she has low vitamin D and low iron, this is a catastrophic situation that needs to be addressed. Then I need to, if then there's many other areas that I would have to look into based on your daughter's temperament, um, because I wouldn't want to say anything that's unfair towards any adult or any teen. It depends on her situation. So there's many predisposing factors I need to look at. Do you have any advice for supporting teen boys who grow up without a father and without a male role model or male family members? Um, May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for any mother out there who is supporting her sons or son without a male role model. It's makes me very, very sad being a mother of boys, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you. I mean, um, the most important thing is that if you don't have strong role models, you need to, inshallah, just, like how I've spoken today about some of the checklist in terms of what you can do for yourself, number one, then what you can do for your teens, and then you need to find like sport coaches and people like create have sport coaches or activities for your boys so they can engage. I know Kalima has reopened, I think, in Dubai if you're in the UAE. So they have like occasionally programs for teens, and that would be a good environment. So you can't do it by yourself. You cannot do it by yourself. So you need to strategically just have a look and see what can we slot into the boys' schedule that is going to take the burden off you and take the huge responsibility that you have on you, and get the boys actively. So look for active things that they can be involved in. Inshallah, Miss Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you. I mean, someone has says on the subject of phones in the rooms, they seem to be want to use for chatting friends during the bedtime. We were asked permission, repeated permission, did not want to reject. Sorry, you didn't want to reject. I wouldn't allow your child to have a phone in the bedroom to talk to friends in the evening. But if you've done it already, there's children, teens are so reactionary these days. You don't want to get into a position where they start harming themselves because they feel like you're being strict. It's just such a fine line here. But never give your teenager a phone in their room. You need to have, when you introduce the phone to your child, you need to have a contract written down of the rules and regulations. And if you have given your child the phone because they requested it, what I'm going to ask you to do is say, I have made a mistake. I'm not in agreement with this. You have a certain time where you can contact your friends. I don't want the phone in the room, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you three other choices. Maybe they wanted some headphones, maybe they wanted something that they really like, and say, in return for this new rule, and write down the new rules, make them sign it. I'm going to, because you don't want to get into that position where any child, alhamdulillah, hopefully there's no teenagers listening, any teen self-harming, because I come across that a lot, unfortunately. So you need to say, okay, now I'm going to gift you something only because, like, I want you to understand I love and care for you, but I also want to remove the phone in the evening because I also love and care for you. Sometimes the teenager doesn't get it. You have to repeat it 4 or 5 times to sow the seed. Alhamdulillah, I'm getting some messages that they found it beneficial, which means a lot to me. Jazakallah khairan. Um, I'm just going through some more questions. Your teen niece has maladaptive daydreaming. I need to understand like some of the root causes in regarding that. The maladaptive daydreaming. There could be some it could be just general, or there could be some root causes that have led to that. But definitely get see what they're reading, see what they're watching, see if she has a deficiency, and check her home environment as well. How often would you advise to have blood tests for adults and teens? Have a blood test, see how it goes. If there are multiple deficiencies, every 3 months. Other than that, it can be every 6 months. And speaking about deficiencies, I had somebody contact me on social media, and they were really, really panicked. And obviously, they were like, I really need to get in contact with you. I need to, and this person was in Saudi Arabia. And I was like, okay. I was worried that her situation was extremely clinical. I don't work as a clinical psychologist. I work under the banner as a coach. So I thought, okay, let me just see what happens. She's reaching out to me. Um, I explained to her that the first thing is please just have your uh, blood test checked. So she checked her vitamin. I told her before going, if you're low in vitamin D, this is the side effect. If you're low in iron, it's like a volcanic explosion. And she was in such a bad state. She said, I feel panicked. I wanted to, jump out of the car whilst it was moving. I was like, please just go see a doctor if you need to, and go get your blood test. Anyway, she had a blood test done, and subhanallah, she had both deficiencies. Within 1 week, she was feeling better after starting to address the deficiency. So it's not always seher problem, it's not always bad eye, it's not always evil eye, it's not always somebody doesn't want good for me. There are actual ailments that need to be dealt with in the correct way, inshallah. Um, so 11-year-old has a habit of hitting and screaming loudly in a way to express his anger. Okay, if your son is hitting, then and expressing his anger, then there's an issue in the family. I I can't really answer if an 11-year-old is hitting and expressing himself really loudly. Now, 11-year-olds do shout and do scream, boys and girls. But if he's then hitting, I would need to speak to you in private, or you need to book in for a consultation, um, because there might be underlying factors either related to how he processes. Maybe something is going on at school. I always look at predisposing factors. So there could be an issue at school. There could have been an issue in his childhood. There could be an issue with his processing. He could be getting bullied. There could be an issue in the home between parents. So it's not about how do I make him more respectful towards us. The reason is what are the predisposing factors that have led to this, and how can we be solution focused to help him to be more respectful. Someone said that she has 3 daughters. The youngest gets angry quickly, cheerful, doesn't want to get checked by a blood. So she has to get checked. You have to encourage her. Again, say, look, this is something mandatory. Look, with teenagers, sometimes it's a negotiation, but you've got to remember you are always in control. When you're negotiating with a teen, you give them options, but you know those options are something that are safe in terms of your parenting, what you want for your children. So you need to get her, and there might not be a reason, but children have different temperaments. Some children are really clever, some children are really sensitive, some children don't know how to process. So it's about understanding your children and having the capacity as well. If you've got to the point where your teen is threatening to report you to Childline or police, I don't know what the situation is. I do have a safeguarding policy. I try to give as much information as I can to parents and teenagers, but in this case, I'd have to know the full history of what is going on. Obviously, it's not acceptable, it's not okay, but maybe they feel threatened, maybe they're not processing things correctly, maybe there was And you see, in some cases there's abuse, and in some cases it's one or two incidences that have got out of control, and everybody realizes that they need to correct themselves more so the parents in how they're dealing with the teen. Um, you have nephews, the way they talk to you is better compared to them, whether they are responsive, do not raise their voice to me. If you have nephews, now you see some of these questions. How is your nephew's situation at home? That's the question. How is the relationship between your nephew's parents? That would be my question first before I could answer anything. Uh, Someone says she maintains a distance with her male, just when talk when needed because of her wrong behavior in the past. You didn't talk back to her for her behavior, but remains. We shared this with your husband who lived abroad when you was. She says he says she's an elder and it's her behavior to let it go. But recently you visited. But recently she visited your home when your daughter noticed that I didn't talk much with my mom, so she asked her why. Doesn't talk much with me. She says because your mom doesn't talk with me and remains in her own world. I heard this and was shocked. And how can they talk or share with little kids in such a little way? So there's a big issue with parents and also with in-laws. I'm a firm believer in healthy boundaries. Um, I think husband and wife should have healthy boundaries. I think you should have healthy boundaries with your children. It doesn't mean you love and care for them less. And with in-laws, it's good to have healthy boundaries. And I'm a big believer that it's not good to involve children in adult matters. Now, if this incident has just been the one or two or three or four times that the mother-in-law has said something to your daughter, um, just this when they're older, they don't understand things or they can't rationalize. But you've already taken the step of having a healthy boundary. Of course, I don't know the full situation. I don't want to do an injustice to your mother-in-law or to you, but healthy boundaries are always good. And it's good that you're still in contact. But yeah, it's not acceptable to tell the grandchild that your mom is like this. But it doesn't matter. In so many cultures, grandparents do this, and it's not okay. And it's very complicated, and I never take sides, but I have to look at things in more detail. But generally, to give you the answer, um, just explain that look, you have to let things go. Grandparents sometimes say things, they're older, and just let it go. But sometimes you can feel really upset because it seems to me that you've protected your children from what's happened with your mother-in-law, which is a perfect thing to do because you don't want to be talking bad about the grandparents because really it will backfire. But just create healthy boundaries. So I hope that somewhat answers. Um, so it seems like you don't have much to worry about because you've already created that healthy boundary. Um, okay. Someone's asked about the vaccine. I am not anti-pharma, and I always say in this regard, it's a very controversial topic. But if it's your own informed decision. We stopped for the children eight. Well, that's when our cell therapy I started it 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And I'll tell you why, because my children were born healthy, fed naturally for 14 months, and then um, they ended up we were born in the UK, then we lived in the UAE when my youngest was 6 weeks, and they were sick from the age when they turned about one. One had top to toe eczema from his ankles all the way to his scalp, and the other one has severe ENT issues. We saw doctors in Harley Street, we saw doctors in the north of England, we saw doctors in Dubai, we saw doctors in Switzerland, and they were just getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. And I knew about the healthy route, I knew about the natural route because I was always into that kind of field. But I mean, I have worked in Pfizer and GSK, and I've worked with 20 um, multiple different therapeutic areas and worked with the packaging of different types of drugs. And then I realized one day, after going through so much heartache with the children, I'm just going to stop everything. So we actually stopped everything, and we deal with everything in a very more natural, holistic way. But this is a very much informed decision. I cannot give anybody that type of medical advice. But for us to heal the natural way, Alhamdulillah, my son does have eczema. It can come back a little bit if he starts having too much of the foods he's not supposed to have. And they did heal naturally, Alhamdulillah, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my advice is, um, you need to make your own informed decision. Uh, um, Laptops in rooms, given primarily to schoolwork and homework. Kids keep wanting to do it in their rooms in a peaceful environment as opposed to public areas at home. If you can, don't have it in their room anyway. My advice is don't put them, if they want to have a peaceful room, can you not create a classroom? Nowadays, you can have partitionings where you create, if they want somewhere quiet, you give them the quiet, and give them again two options. Say when it's school time, we'll make homework time, we'll make sure no one makes a noise on the dinner table. Or if you have a small section where you can, if you're in the UAE, they have maids' rooms, you turn it into a small classroom. And if your children are on computer a lot, before they get too old, you can even, some people might think it's an invasion of privacy. Sometimes even like you have, if you're in and out of the house and they're on the computers all the time, you can have cameras as well, because it's very dangerous to just leave them randomly, I don't know. But in terms of having a computer in their room, I would try to avoid that at all possible costs, where possible, or if they need to do their work in their bedroom at a certain time, it needs to be switched off. That requires a bit more of an answer, an explanation, but I have to see um, what the situation is for you as a family. Can you give examples of a healthy boundary? Well, it depends on the situation, but a healthy boundary could be you you disagree with your spouse and he's seeing things in a very black and white way, even though you're both very practicing. So what you can say is, look, when you start to have a joke in a sarcastic way or say something funny in front of the children and they laugh, that's my red area because I don't like that type of joking. So you can develop reasonable red areas with your spouse, or the husband and for the wife, but it has to be something reasonable, like sarcastic joking, or it can be something like sometimes you know the wife or the mother or the father are speaking to their parents, which is very good, but then they have parents who are always fighting, and then the children hear that, oh, why are the parents fighting all the time, why my grandparents fighting, then you can say, like, it's not nice, it's not the kids don't need to be involved in this. Is it okay if you take those calls outside, like saying, like giving that boundary to the home environment. So there's many examples. um by the way, reasonable, healthy boundaries. I mean, if you're stuck on that, we can discuss it further, but reasonable health, you see, if you don't have boundaries, sometimes you disable your marriage. Sometimes you disable your wife. Sometimes you disable your husband because you're so scared of just pleasing, sabr. And you don't realize that actually saying encouraging and being patient and encouraging and patient, you're actually creating a better future for yourselves. So I'm just going back to some of the questions. Teens can be suicidal in thoughts. Yes, I deal with teens a lot on a weekly basis. I've even as young as 11. But alhamdulillah, through the CBT work that I have done, if and they're suicidal, if they're not asking anything. In these types of cases, if they're threatening suicide, you need early intervention. And I do faith-based cognitive behavioral therapy, and they need to be put on a self-development program. And like I said, if they have a tutor, make sure that the tutor can also mentor them on life skills and how to think. Because teenagers these days, they don't know how to think. They think every thought that comes to their mind, that's how they need to absorb that thought. And that's how they need to think. So my advice is get the correct intervention. So I'm going to answer questions for about 5 more minutes, and then inshallah it will be over. And if anybody needs to seek advice, they have my contact details, they have my Instagram. If you found this beneficial as well, uh, feel free to tag me on social media, raise awareness so people can access even some information for free, inshallah. And I will answer one last question. When there's a lot of different in parenting styles of father and mother, mother makes healthy boundaries protecting the children, father doesn't support it. My advice is to you have red and green areas in your marriage as well. Red areas are your non-negotiables and green areas are your negotiables. And then you put that on repeat. Look, I've told you so many times, please, this is my red area. I don't like you doing this. And he can also have his red and green areas as well. I hope that you all benefited. I'm so sorry I couldn't answer everything, but uh, please do, inshallah, bismillah, forward any information or tag me on social media, support my YouTube channel. There's something related to mental filter on there. By supporting, you will inshallah also be gaining. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept today's session, and I hope it's been impactful for all of you. And Jazakallah khairan. And if you need to reach out, please don't hesitate. Assalamu alaikum.